Why do you think so?
Well, I don't think inequality is inevitable because, I mean, ever since, like, we have, like, written history or oral history of, like, things that have happened, especially in America, everything that has ever been established, government, like, prisons, literally anything is established on the fact that there's somebody who's in power and there's somebody who's not, based on whatever, like, they choose it to be, whether it be gender, race, ethnicity, like, literally anything. So I really feel like at this point it's inevitable because it's so intertwined with all of our systems.
I agree, and like, I've always thought like, as humans, like we are inherently drawn to difference, and like, so that's the first thing we notice about anyone is like how they aren't similar to us, or like, that's what we look for in another person, like, what are your differences that can either supplement me or drive me away from you? Like, we've always had this kind of, it's like an egotistical thing of like, what do you want to do? Like, okay, that's definitely not what I want to say. We actually had to do that, like, we had a discussion about this in my other sociology class, like inequality is a huge thing in that class. And I don't know, just especially in America, since, you know, slavery, that's just been hardwired into everyone's psyche, everyone's social status, like, and the fact that we have a bipartisan governmental system, we always look for, like, opposition, like, we're drawn to aggression and, like, making sure we're right, or, like, that we're the ones on top, you know? So I've always felt that inequality is always going to be around, and it's not going away anytime soon.
I think something important to mention is that like a lot of the systems and infrastructures like within our society that support inequality, whether it's on like a resource base or a social, economic, political base, whatever, it's not just necessarily like the powers that be that keep it systematic the way that it is, like what Du Bois was talking about with Washington, how he was practically a sellout to boys because he was like, look, you gotta take your time, you can't be asking all this of white people, you need to learn your place, and then we might get somewhere. And that's really like evident even now, like with like Hispanic immigrants who are against other Hispanic immigrants migrating, whether it's legal or illegally, whether they came here legally or illegally, stuff like that. So a lot of it, we kind of put our inequalities on our backs and kind of use those to differentiate the way we see the world. And for some people, they can see it as like a, you know, a hindrance, and other people just see it as the way that it is, which that's why I kind of feel like regardless, unless our society somehow manages to become like minimalized in a very bad way, like to the point where there's very few people, inequality is going to be a systematic thing, maybe not in the regards that we think of it, but there's always going to be someone that has a little more than the other guy, regardless of whether they earned it or didn't, they deserve it or didn't, whatever. There's always going to be, there's never going to be complete balance when it comes to resources, because that's just not really logical.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be like a sense of community too, like you were talking about how like separates, but it can also be not inclusionary, not exclusionary.
Because like, yeah, like in America, we think of taxes, like some people think of taxes, like, you know, in the European kind of sense, it's a little more liberalized, like, oh, I put this little bit of money in so someone who doesn't have that money can get something that they need, whether it's medical, it helps state stuff, like funds things, that kind of thing. And then there's other people that to their dying day will be like, taxation's theft. Like, and they think that it's their money, and why should they support anything that has to do with anything outside of their little life? Although they benefit from taxes every single day, driving on the state roads, using state buildings, going to the post, anything. And I think a lot of inequality kind of comes from that misunderstanding of how things really work, especially when you have what you need. Like, when your needs are met, you don't have to be like, I wonder how I got them and how it got this way. Unlike if you don't have it, and you're like, how did I end up here? Let's think about it. And you can kind of pick out where the inequality came into play.
I want to talk about like the sense of the veil, like that Du Bois was talking about, and how like, because I've always tried to put myself in other people's shoes, like think of it like from both perspectives, because that's just the way I think. Like I hate feeling like there's a sense of prejudice, or like there's an overlying sense of inequality. Like I hate feeling like we're not all equal, which is unfortunately like it's very true. Like there is so much inequality in the world, but like my veil, like me seeing through the eyes of like another person, like another race, is like drastically different than them seeing it through my eyes, and then the other way around. Because yeah, like I can think like, oh, this is what Black people dealt with, and like I can imagine where that hurt and hate and sense of feeling comes from, but like we will never understand hardship as they have, and like that's really difficult to think about, like, because you want to be able to identify and like want it to be all okay, like with everyone, and like find that sense of community and camaraderie, but it's just never going to happen because our hardships are drastically different than everyone else's hardships.
That's like a really prevalent dynamic with a lot of these like new social movements where the leaders of the movement will be like white feminism. It's women who have taken their social power that they have as women to combat the things they feel as white women are the main issue, leaving Black women and women of color completely in the corner. Like during the original women's rights movements in the 60s and 70s, I've watched a few documentaries of where Black women, that the very few that actually felt the need to participate in that, with a majority of white women, they started to section off from that main collective and talk among themselves and be like, okay, that's not our issues.
Kind of self-segregated.
We have our own issues. And with the power dynamic, with the inequality, you're more likely, like for example, you're more likely to be listened to as a white woman than you are as a Black woman, regardless of your emotional intent, regardless of like what you're saying, anything. And that's just simply due to the way that a lot of people view and perceptualize African-American women as angry, emotional, revenge-driven, like they're just bitter, that kind of thing. But with white women, they're just hurt, and they're doing something about it. And you can see just with like that social inequality, like that social difference in treatment, like that's pervasive inequality, but it's not tangible like economic or even political. You can't be like, that was inequality, because there's no way to actually
Gauge that.
pinpoint it down.
We should have done this before. Yeah, I mean, like, one thing that I think pretty much proves that inequality is inevitable is, like, think about, like, how many movements we've had throughout the decades. Like, all of these movements that are, like, trying to be very, like, inclusive and trying to be, like, a joint fight, like you're saying, like, it's so easy to be, like, yeah, as like a feminist, I'm like for the empowerment of all women and all that kind of stuff, and exclude a group of them. And like, it's also shown like we just turned slavery into our prison system, which highlights inequality. Like, it's crazy how the racial disparities in like prisons, also like sentencing for like different like genders, you know, like males are way more likely to get like higher sentences for certain crimes than women are. Women are more likely to be let off easy, and I think it's hard because like people ignore so many facets of inequality, and people really ignore like the underlying inequality that's established from people trying to fight for inequality. Like, it's so easy for people to say, like you were saying with like women, like, yeah, women aren't treated equally, like, or don't have the same opportunities, or like don't get paid the same as like men and stuff like that. And yeah, we can look at that, like data and stuff like that, but when it comes to like black women or like Hispanic women, yeah, like when you look at like the statistics for that, which we usually don't, because it's really easy to push that stuff under the rug, it just highlights more inequality.
Well, I mean, like recently with the bomber in Texas, like, okay, for example, Unabomber. He set off like 2 or 3 bombs in like a very long stretch of time, and you can look up documentary after news report after criminal investigation on the psychopathy of this man, on like how dangerous he was, how much of a criminal he was, and what a menace to society. And he killed like 2 or 3 white people. The Texas bomber, in less than like 2 weeks, has successfully killed 3 people, maimed like another 2 or 3, and they're and it's only been African Americans and like 1 Hispanic man, I think, and that was like someone walking by that tripped it. They're like, it might be racially based, might, and if you Google it, there's like there's no national articles on it. It's all small, local, that kind of thing. And a lot of people are saying it's because the victims are black. And just like with the Grim Sleeper, this serial killer that literally killed like fucking 50 plus women. And many women have led the police to the street that he lived on, like 2 houses down. And they were like, oh, we don't know. And then when they finally caught him through like a happenstance, they were like, we had no idea, because it was mostly black women who were either prostitutes, strippers, or didn't really have anyone looking for them.
Yeah.
And no one really saw it was a problem. He even said, like, his son even said that cops will come up to him and be like, your dad really cleaned up the streets. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, like, just with the social dynamic of how we perceive individuals just based on, like, physical characteristics, until we get past that, we'll never be able to address like the economic and political, like systematic inequality, until we get over the fact that a lot of us are assholes for no reason.
Right, like we can't even address it at like the fundamental, like human level.
Like, you don't think of some people as a person. Like, we
Right.
need to get past that first before you'll come to the terms that women don't get paid as much as men.
Right, and even so, like at a disproportionate level for women of color, like
Mhm.
because there is that like
And that's
intersectionality that we don't really take into account, because if we're not living that experience, then like I don't wanna say that like we don't think about it, because I don't live that experience, but like I think about it, but I will never know like what it is like to live that, like to live as a woman of color. Like, I don't know, I think that like for that reason, like because we can't really seem to address like the inequality on like the fundamental human level, I don't really see how anytime soon we can go into these different like facets of inequality and address those if we aren't even like getting to like the core of the issue as like a overall society.
Not to mention inequality and sexuality too, like
Yeah.
how people who aren't straight weren't considered human, like for the same reasons that people are black and not considered human. Like it's fucking ridiculous, honestly.
Like,
to
the
have
whole
these-
power dynamic of jokes is something that, like, as a whole, people don't understand. Like, when, like, because now, like on social media, a lot of, like, LGBT, youth are, like, starting to make jokes that have been made previously by, like, straight people, like, you know, oh my God, straight people, they're so fucking weird, da 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 da. And like a lot of straight people are getting mad and they're like, keep that same energy whenever we're calling you faggots, like that kind of deal. And they just don't seem to understand that it matters who's saying the joke and how the community receives the joke. Because no gay person can be like, I hate straight people, and influence a bunch of straight people to hate other straight people. But if a straight person is like, I hate gay people, there's a good chance they're at least reinforcing some sort of hatred somebody has for gay people. And it's just like, that power dynamic is something that they won't either acknowledge or like even act like it's a thing. And that really infuriates me, especially when they are trying to deliver some sort of joke to a audience that won't receive it the way, even if they meant it in a like, damaging way, unless your audience can receive it as something that's like, oh, that's a joke, not a reinforcement of like, my shitty behavior. Like rape jokes. Every time you make a rape joke, someone who has either thought about it or done it gets a checkbox in their head saying, oh, okay.
Socially acceptable.
It's like
cool.
validating their like,
Exactly.
their ideas, their like unspoken ideas, kind of.
It's like a psychological thing. It's like, okay, maybe like it's like an inhibitor, but like, okay, maybe I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like,
Someone else is as shitty as I am.
Yeah.
that's good to see.
Right.
I'm not a terrible.
If anything, if
I'm-
anything.
I'm as bad as that guy, but like at least we're in it together.
And you can see
So,
like socially that certain people, especially white people, have a lot more agency to say that kind of stuff than anyone else. Like if a black woman is like, white people are crazy, she hates white people. But if someone's like, black women are so angry all the time, they're just making a generalization. They're just making an observation.
Right.
I tend to laugh. I laugh at the other way around. Like, you know, black people say white people are crazy. We fucking are crazy. Like, they're absolutely right. That is
That's
a
the
perfect
thing,
observation.
until like we can address as like the main power source in America that like we are wacky as fuck. Like
Like,
we're
the
not gonna
sooner-
be able to move on.
The sooner we realize the same things about ourselves that we think we've thought about other people, like, we're gonna be such a happier group. Because like I've already come to terms with like my whiteness, like my nerdiness, my sexuality, like all of that. Like I'm good. Like, I'm good with myself as a person. Like to be able to hear that kind of stuff and be like, you know what, Yolanda, you're absolutely right. I'm fucking weird. Like, come at me. I'm okay because it's true. Like the sooner we like all can get past our differences and just like the fact that we aren't even that like different really. Like we're not different.
We're not.
We're really not.
That's
Like
the thing that's so
you're more
frustrating.
tan than me. That's cool. Like I'd rather be tan.
We're all human beings, and that's like the thing that's kind of sickening about it. Like everything that makes us unequal started because of like things that we made up. I mean, race, we made it up. Like yeah, we all look different, but
There's
we're all
intimidation
human
in all
beings.
honesty. We went to these African countries and we're like, these guys are huge. They could destroy us. Let's make sure they don't do that, like, and enslave them. Honestly, it's an intimidation factor. We try to establish superiority over something that could have easily been superior over us. This could have easily been the other way around, but we just got in our heads and kind of became more egocentric, and that's why we're in this situation today, honestly.
It's hard because we've gotten this far.
Yeah.
Like, I try to think about that, like, in some sociology classes, when, like, there's, like, the question of, like, could we fix, like, the prison system? Hell no. Like, we can't. It's too late.
Like, as it
We've
currently
ruined
exists,
too
like,
many,
no.
yes, we can improve
We can
upon
improve it.
We can cut down like the way that people can make money off of prisoners and people being in there, and we can cut down the amount of like jail time and the amount of like non-violent offenders actually being sent there. But at the end of the day, we have still ruined hundreds of thousands of lives, whether they know.
The sooner we
like,
start letting people out, like, or who don't, like, aren't immediately arrested for having a gram of weed on them, people are gonna lose their shit.
And the
Because
thing is, like, it even
it's
involves
ruining our
like
streets.
occupational stuff, like even with just a misdemeanor. You have to put that you have a misdemeanor on a lot of applications, and guess how many people want it, like,
hire someone with that.
whether it's like, you know, nothing to assault. They see that you have a charge.
Because it's a criminal record, like
And
you
they
already.
don't care that you need a job. And so then, what you gonna do is make money.
Which honestly establishes an entirely different level of inequality. You could be a white straight male and have that on your record, and you're as fucked as another black man. Like,
Well, it depends. There's normally more opportunities for,
True, but
white parolees, and they're honestly, white people are more likely to get off parole in the first place, because they're not, like, my father was on parole, and he didn't get drug tested once. They didn't come and search our place like once, like they were supposed to. And his parole officer had the nerve to say he was the only person that's ever out on parole with her, when I guarantee he was the only one that wasn't getting drug tested. Because he got in trouble for marijuana, like, that was what he got, like, that's what she should have been doing minimally. And since she didn't, and he tries to brag about how he's the only one that's got off parole, when in reality, he didn't do, like, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Marx or Weber?
I mean, we kind of have touched on it a little bit, like with Marx, I guess, like
The whole
the
resources
power,
thing,
yeah, like the people who, I mean, we didn't really say this, but the people who own the means of production are going to be in power over the people who don't.
Well, the first thing you said was like basically bourgeoisie and
Yeah,
proletariat.
and we talked about status and like
Yeah,
class stuff, as to where like
bipartisanism.
certain people in society have a lot more social impact as opposed to like other people.
1%. I would love to talk about the 1%, but I get too mad. I'm so anti-establishment. It makes me. I really hate anyone with a moderate amount of
Like-
wealth. Like,
I used to like
Which is very
kind of agree with this, cause this is like the trope that my mother feed into me for like people that have money, but now I get sick whenever I hear people say it. It's their money. How are you gonna tell someone how to spend their money? The same way you tell someone to use their resources, not to let people starve to death right in front of them. Like, I hate that, because you're literally saying that you don't care about them abusing the economic system and putting you lower on the totem pole. You're cool with that. You're literally okay. You're like, that's what I was talking about earlier with people inside the stigmatized groups that will support the inequality in the system, because they've been brainwashed into thinking that's just how it is,
Yep.
or that's how things work, or they earned it. When in reality, intergenerational wealth is one of the leading precursors to being within the 1%.
I use this as my logic base. I come from my dad's side of the family, all upper middle class to upper class, and like that's how I was raised. And until he passed away, we lived frugally for the amount of money we had. But then when he passed, like we had to kind of live very
Actually
like,
frugally?
actually frugally, like without an impending sense of like I have a trust fund or anything like that. Like now that I'm older and I've seen like how to live both ways, it just makes me mad because like I'm like watching my friends' parents like use like it's such a waste of resources buying like multiple boats and like jet skis. I'm like, yeah, you're right, do you, but like
At the same time, if you don't have the conscience to see that you're wasting away money that could be beneficial to other
Like,
families that don't even have food to
I
feed
don't
their
have
children.
shit like to where I could have easily been. Like that's the part that makes me mad is like that people aren't as philanthropic as they could be. Like then again, that is their own
Poor
choice.
people are the
But
most philanthropic people in the
honestly though, like because they know, like honestly, you see more videos of poor people giving food to other poor people than you do like actual like just behind the camera like. Here's $100, go do with it what you will. Like,
For my dad, like he grew up like in a city in Pittsburgh, and he had nothing growing up, and like he has like a really good job right now, but he always says like every time he sees anything about any celebrities or anything like that, every time he's like, I don't understand, like, and I'm pretty sure the only reason he has this perspective is because he grew up not having anything, but like he always says like, if I had that much money, all I would want to do is give it away, because I would have nothing that I would want. Like,
Yeah.
nothing that I would want to spend it on, like, and there's too many people who just grew up in, like, wealthy families and stuff like that, and, like, it's just a reoccurring cycle, and they don't give back, and then their wealth just accumulates and gets passed down to the next person who's in line.
gold money, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard, because, like, for people like that, like, you can't really be mad at them because it's all they've ever known.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it creates a lot of inequality in our society, and
All you can hope is that they see the, like, what we, like, as,
Yeah.
like, normals, we'll call ourselves, like, they, obviously, they see all the, like, inequality, like, they, without knowing it, they see it, like, by, like,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, you shop at American Eagle, I exclusively go to Louis Vuitton, like, that's, like, there's, like, such a, even still, it's in that little bubble, there's so much disparity, and, like, you automatically know, they see it, like, all you can hope is that they, like, they see it in like even lower classes, like not even middle
But
class.
like, the thing is, with a lot of the times when that happens with people with wealth that don't actually know what it's like to be poor or like struggle, they turn it into more like a power sense as opposed to like a nice liberal philanthropy like way. They'll be like, look at all the things that I've done to make sure those poor little colored children don't grow up in the streets and go to prison.
It's like the white savior
Like,
complex.
literally,
Right.
like, that's the shit that you'll hear constantly. Like, there's this one post going around, this, like, girl from Switzerland or Sweden, she had that whole
I
big post.
saw that.
It was like, you're gonna end up pregnant with a grown man and living on the street, but there's hope.
Yeah, she's like, stay strong, young child, or something like about
Yeah.
this like little like baby that she went on
Yeah.
like a service trip to
Yeah.
go like help, which service trips are bullshit.
Yeah.
They just reinforce the white savior complex that we get.
The fact that you have to pay that much money to go think you can save someone
Right?
is awesome.
Right.
Like,
I'm paying
It's
white
insane.
people to give me a
I've done mission
Like what?
I've done mission trips that are like $100, like, and then I went to actually impoverished areas, and I was like, you know what, this is somewhat fulfilling, like, this is great, like, I'm connecting with the community, like, it's actually fun, but like, people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Kenya and build a well.
Well, and like
for
a lot,
$5
and a lot
fucking
of the,
grand.
a lot of the places that like Americans want to go to is like a result of like colonialism that we have like imposed on these places, which like totally like screws up their system that they had in place because we're like, oh, well, you need to assimilate to white culture because that's, you know, that's the standard. And that's bullshit. Like, I don't understand that. I don't get, and like when people are like, oh, well, no, like it's nice, like they're going to help people. I'm like,
How?
why?
How'd they
Like,
get
why,
there in the first place?
why do they need
Like-
the help in the first place? Like, let's acknowledge that fact, because like nobody really seems to think about that. But like,
Yeah.
why do they need help in the first place? It's like, it's because of our like systems that we impose upon people. And then as a result, to make ourselves feel better about it, like we go and we try to fix it, we try to fix them.
All these
I think
huge
it's
trips,
crazy.
coming from my private school, like, kids were going to Kenya and like France and Spain, like doing like intermissionary work, like, and I was like looking at the list, I'm like, it's a $5,000 trip to just go do what now? To give kids shoes? And you're supposed to feel like really good about that, because like most people, like I would have had to work my ass off just to even go,
Yeah.
which is more gratifying, like in that sense, like I worked for this to go help do this, like that's how it should be done, instead of being like, Dad, Kenya, here's a check, there you go.
I mean,
Like-
most people treat it as like a vacation.
Yeah.
They don't even care about the helping people thing. Like, there were so many people at Pitt who went on like this trip to, I can't remember which, it was like a South American country. And they went there to go like help build a school, which all they did was paint the walls of the outside, like
And then-
paint the building,
Drink a shit ton of liquor.
and basically just hang out at the beach and go like
Mhm.
swimming and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, how did you benefit them at all? They could have painted
By
that
themselves.
building in way less time than you took
For
when there
real.
was 20 of you.
And honestly, you can still see where like the colonialism and the, basically whenever we do stuff like that, like the whole shoes thing, like give shoes to an African child. Instead of sending over used, donated shoes that we don't want anymore, how about you get somebody the resources there to set up their own little shoemaking shop, hire a few people, make some money, help their community, as opposed to donating. Because honestly, I've read that with those kind of situations, donating is in fact a lot more harmful than anything, because it completely denounces any need for any sort of job-based service within that community. So if you donate a community a bunch of clothes, you just put the one store that sells clothes in that town out of business.
And it's also kind of sad because like, for people who are living in like a building that's made out of like tarp and like stuff like that, and they're like, their community is like really struggling, like you were saying, why aren't we giving them the resources? Like, yeah, they might have a nice pair of Toms, but they can't like eat, you know, like.
And like I've read that stuff, like the people that got the donated shoes and stuff, they're like, we never asked for this shit. Like we don't really wear them. Like
Yeah. It's a
we don't
cultural
actually
thing.
go to the needs. We go to fill like our own little feel
It
good.
is our own feel-good.
It's just our own feel-good little superiority complexes, and that's like one of the most blatant forms of.
And how are you to gauge who gets the shoes?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
is it
Right.
comes
Like,
about between two little African
you're
kids
too
like,
old.
can't decide,
You both get
one
one.
each.
yeah.
Like, what? Like, you don't send enough. Like, one kid has to be like at the end of the line. Like, you're like, what's up? Like, it just like end of the line. We ran out of shoes. It's okay. I'll get it next time. There's not gonna be another job for 5 years. All right, fine. That's awesome. That's literally so infuriating. Like, just even thinking about it, like, there's still the chance that you're still gonna be like even less impoverished over there. Like, your buddy got shoes and you don't have shoes. Like, that's already another sense of inequality. Like, give me the fucking like that establishes a sense of violence. Like kids could fight over that one shoe. Like, that's ridiculous. It's so infuriating. Just, ugh. Charity sucks.
America's kind of too.
We got to 30.
Let's go to France.
France doesn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Edit that out. I feel like our rant was like somewhat. It was supplemented by a solid idea. It's like it's not.
We addressed things.
We just. I mean, wraps
To,
around.
to tie it all in, like, the fact that American culture thinks that they're helping people, like, it shows on a day-to-day basis how unequal we are, because, like, in The Invisible Man, like, there was that quote, about how, like, they're ignoring, like, asking the question of, like, how does it feel to be a problem? And they're saying to this, like, African-American man, oh, like, there's a really nice, like, other black dude who lives down the street from me. And, like, that is such an American thing. Like, my grandpa, like, he'll use very racist language. And then when I'm like, that was racist language, he's like, a guy that I fought with in the Navy was black. And I'm like, what's your point?
I was there. Like, that's
Yeah.
it. Sense of like familiarity.
Yeah, and it's like, it's terrifying because like, that is so inexcused in our society. Like, people saying stuff like that, like, some people just agree with it. They're like, yeah, like, one of my best friends in elementary school was black.
Yeah.
And it's like an excuse for like saying that like some of them are cool, and like it's really, really terrible. And like,
Selective racism.
yeah.
Like, I was just gonna use that. Like, someone just put something up on Instagram. One of my friends from high school was like, quote unquote, I'm not racist. My best friend's black. Every white guy ever. Like, I was like, oh my god, it's like so true, and they're still super racist, which is hilarious and awful. But still, that was exactly the same.
Well, that
thing.
makes, I feel like that makes, like, people that say, like, oh, well, I have, like, a black friend or whatever, that makes, like, the person of color's humanity only, like, important because it's relational to you.
Yeah.
Like,
And they proved themselves worthy
Worthy.
of your, like.
I knight you worthy of my friend group.
Of
Right.
my whiteness.
Enter.
And like, it also shows how inequality is inevitable, because connecting to like what we were saying about like how we have like this American like savior like complex, like we think that like these people need us to come there and like be like we're gonna really make these people happy,
Yeah.
rolling up into their community and painting a wall for 20 days. Like, it's like we just like think that like we are like that our shit don't stink, and like that there are so many people that need us, when like they don't need us, they need resources. It doesn't matter if it comes from us or not. Like, the fact that they don't have resources is probably because of us. So like,
The fact we need to work on ourselves first before we even try to like work on other people. Like,
Yeah.
the poverty rate here is awful. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, of course it's. We can't even honestly gauge like poor countries over in Africa, because those people are like low key happier than we are as
Yeah.
a society. Like, they're happy with what they have. They know how to be happy and how to live. Like, the fact that we come in there, hell, the people who paint those houses are probably like the kids sitting back there was like, damn, that was gonna get me like $20. Like, you just stole my job. Like, which is is so stupid, and we think that it's helping, but like, because we're like, oh my god, here you go, like, I'm not hungry, I just ate, like,
Yeah.
I'm good, I had my cultural food, like, no, I don't need your burger?
Sandwiches,
Is
Yeah.
that?
your cold bologna and
Oh,
cheese
yeah.
sandwich, keep it.
My grandma
Stupid.
makes better food than what you're about to serve, so keep that to yourself, like, oh my god.
That's a wrap.
Yep. Inequality is probably
Bad.
always gonna be there, so there's that.
Well, it was good, guys.